Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Changepreneurs Podcast. We are a team of coaches from around the world trying to spark change through conversations. We bring change makers, entrepreneurs, successful businessmen, sports icon to our podcast with the intention to spread the words of optimism, hope, courage, and extraordinary leadership. Today, we have the honor of having Shyam Srinivasan, ex-MD of Federal Bank. Shyam is a pioneer and a well-known name in the banking industry. He has won multiple awards, including Banker of the Year awards, India's Top 10 Best Leaders Award, Greatest Corporate Leaders of India by World HRD Congress, Exemplary Leadership Award from Rotary Club, and Distinguished Alumnus Award from both NIT Trichy and IIM Calcutta. Shyam, it's indeed a privilege and honor to have you in our show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I also have my co-host today, Pushkar Vaidya from Pune. He is a career and leadership coach. Again, Pushkar is widely experienced, again, from the banking space. Welcome, Pushkar, to the show.
Thank you so much, Satish, and good afternoon, Shyam.
Let me start off by an interesting quote from Walt Disney, and this is how it goes. We keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we are curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down to new paths. So, just wondering, Sham, through all these years, how do you still maintain that sparkle in your eyes and the curiosity? What keeps you excited these days?
Thanks, Satish and Pushkar. Good that we're having this conversation. I hope it's completely free flowing and I can share some experiences and thoughts. But specifically to your question here, I think Satish, on occasions when I've had a conversation with you or many of our colleagues, the opportunity to make something better, different, and inspire a bunch of younger colleagues has been my sort of eternal motivation. Right? Every time I wake up, and particularly in an executive role till a few months ago, but whatever we did, it seemed to have a recoil through the ranks, and many people were either benefited or disturbed by that action. So my natural proclivity is to keep more people energized and excited about the opportunity so that I can do less work. It's a selfish objective, right? So if I can create that energy in many, that makes them feel like they want to go out and carry the torch and do stuff, then it's, I think, infectious and it sort of inspires me. So in many ways, this whole journey of optimism, if you will, has been in some way self-serving because it keeps me excited about doing more for myself, which makes sure that I can do more for others. So it's kind of sort of interplays with one and the other. But I think the most important thing is if you get many people more excited by the opportunity, which for good or bad reason you have already seen or it's in your inner eyes, then I think that excitement, that adrenaline that comes through is unmatched. So all my years, I've been blessed to have opportunities to go out and keep more people excited, energized by the opportunity, and I do want to believe that it's helped somewhere along the journey. So I don't know if you call it curious. It's sort of ambition, aspiration, a combination, I would argue, and that sort of keeps everybody sort of inspired. And any journey will have issues. So how do you keep motivation up all the time is probably the only reason I wake up to do more stuff.
So, Shyam, your last statement, any journey will have issues. So, how do you consistently work through issues and also keep inspiring the people that have been inflected with or they've been motivated by the curiosity that you drive within them?
Yeah, I think, Pushkar, if you've worked with me over the years, or you worked with me, have been part of any journey, I've realized that I'm a obsessive sport watcher, sport fan. Both the characters, the Lord Ganesha in the cricketing avatar here, is probably the best description of my life in some sense. Right?
Mhm.
One, I'm deeply religious. I'm not saying spiritual, and cricket has been my sort of everything. So through both of that, I've learned a lot of lessons. Not like studied lessons, but I think just seeps through, pours through, or I draw inspiration from that. We've seen in whether it's a 20-over game, it's a 5-day game, it's a 1-day game, any game, not only cricket, any sport. It's never the same across the 20 overs or across the 50 or across the 5 days, right? It's got its own ups and downs. Draw the match from day before, you'll realize that at one point India was on course. At some point in time, India was like gone and dusted, and then suddenly one young man stood up and said, "I'm going to do it," and then they brought back the game. So I think the lessons from all this is you have to, and experience is the best teacher. I can't say that I would say the same thing 25 years ago, but with having done for all these years, we've realized that journeys are going to have these ups and downs. But if you lose the big plot and you're not in search of that sort of what in the bank I used to call the most admired bank journey,
Mhm.
You are going to give up midway, and giving up midway is never an option. If you do, then you're not in that. It's better to do something else. But whatever you choose, be there. Believe that in passage of time, if you ride the waves, you will land where you want to. And job of any or all leaders is to show them the promised land and take them there, not just show them the land. And so my journey has been around that. I, for good or bad reason, believed that the bank can be quite special.
Hmm.
Not only the federal life, even in my past life, and carried the teams to see that. And hopefully they saw it or will see it, and everybody in turn tries to bring out the best. So ups and downs given, not losing sight of the big picture is not an option. I mean, losing sight of the big picture is not an option.
Hmm.
And above all, keep the faith, right? And sort of speaks
No,
to
and
the faith and sport analogy.
and I absolutely love the way you have kind of intertwined your corporate career, the faith you keep, and sports, which is one of your passions. So it's really inspiring to see that.
Yeah, keep the faith. Amazing. Sham, let's travel back down to memory lane. Let's go way back to 1962 when you were born. Where were you born, and how was it like growing up in the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, by curious set of events, I was actually born in a state which I ended up finishing my career in, right? So, though I don't speak Malayalam even today, but I
Right.
was born in Trivandrum. But that's the sequence of events. My mother's family was there, and whatever. So I was born there, and then I relocated to Chennai. Schooling was in Chennai,
Mhm.
and that's where I've come back again after all these years.
Right.
But I've been around the block. I've worked in many organizations and locations. The journey through the early years is probably your question, right? I mean,
Yeah, right.
I won't try to romanticize it and say it was something either too bad or too exciting or whatever. It's just another young lad growing up with reasonable means, an obsession for sport, and not wanting to give up that middle class aspiration of becoming an engineer and make a successful career. So
Right.
I don't think it was very wildly different from anybody else's, except the fact that I think I had one trait which now in hindsight seems to have worked for me, is not to give up even if I made 5 zeros in 5 matches and people were booing me out. I said, screw you, I will hit the next match. If you give me a chance, I'll hit a 50. And so I did. I think I was not blessed with the best of the games, but I was an obsessive cricket maniac, so to say. So I used to get up at 4 and do practice and then go to school. So I think the journey of sport and modest academics with a great family support. Nobody questioned whether I did well or otherwise. I didn't do badly, but I was not like some rock star academic. But all along, I think one thing that kept me going, and I do tell most people, is it's not how brilliant you are, but how consistent you are that makes the massive difference, right? You Satish may know that I am this crazy Rahul Dravid
Right.
fan. So I think not fan, as in I see that characteristic of consistency and wanting to ride the wave, be in the core, be in the middle, play the game, be in the course, not give up. Those are attributes which growing up was not something that I badged myself on that. But if you look back, those seems to be the only thing. I mean, if you ask some of my schoolmates, hey, this guy is a wasted. Nothing profound about him. but I'm guessing.
Hmm.
Over time, what was not your biggest strength turns out to be one if you stay consistent with that thought. And so that's probably what I would characterize the early years. I don't know. As I said, it's not very romantic or adventurous, but that's the truth. That's how it is.
So, Shams, I think one common theme that I've been getting from everything that you're saying is be consistent and don't give up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think that's a good summary. Grit is what I believe in. I believe being in the middle, being in the course, sticking to the very basic stuff, and just doing it boringly. It doesn't sound sexy, but doing it boringly, consistently, has great payoffs in normal career progression in corporate. I
Hmm.
mean, Steve Jobs is one exception. You will
Correct.
find many more, but not all of us are that, right? I mean, majority of us, and I'm guessing all of our listeners are people who want to make a difference, who just want to go out and live a good life and do a bunch of stuff, but do it well.
Hmm.
I'm going to stick to your childhood a little bit, Sham. And in retrospect, what's one advice that you would give a 25-year-old Sham sitting now?
No, I've told myself in most of the sessions when I was on the bank and addressing young joinees, that would be a perennial question, right? What would you do if you start all over?
Hmm.
And I've always said, I had the privilege and sort of go to good schools. I did engineering from a premium institute, MBA from a very premium institute. So obviously, when you come out from these, you have a little chip on your shoulder. You think you're like some catch whiskers,
Hmm.
right? Not that I was trying to be supercilious, but it probably comes through as that. So, if anything, the years after that, which have taught us is, you could be great credentials academically, but once you're in the job, that's just an entry pass. After that, how you sort of labor, work the system, work with the system, work with people. Those are no school teaches you.
Hmm.
So if there's anything that I would tell myself then, and today it's consistently the same, get real, right? Drop some of these in some of your hairs and roll up your sleeves. And I think that would be a good advice for any youngster, certainly to myself in the years gone by.
Wonderful.
Be in the trenches.
Yeah. Thank you, Shyam. Any inspiration that you found when you were younger? Any particular role model that you always looked up to when you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, right? The more conventional, let's do engineering, then go to the US or do an MBA, and then have all those career aspirations. I did have the luxury of an uncle of mine who had a similar background and who went to IIT and IIM. And
Hmm.
when I was maybe 13, 14, he was already just about coming out of IIM and getting a big job. So it looked like, wow, that's cool. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe somewhere deep inside, that was in the psyche. Like I said, I'm lucky both parents academically, professionally qualified. So we've had a professionally qualified home and supportive of whatever choices I made. So I think those were, I don't know, inspiration. Man, I don't want to sound these things as too lofty words. It's just an environment that allowed me to do these things. But I was pursuing the more obvious choices, right? Do engineering and then do an MBA, and which seemed obvious at that point in time. And thankfully, the divine sort of supported me to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have landed neither engineering or IIM and done something else. God knows. But I chose that. Stuck with it. Like I said, not like brilliant academic, modest, and therefore you could have lost it because at some cutoff point you lose it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
by the whatever grace of everything, I just pushed through in the cutoff point, and then one. But my message to a larger crowd, I'm guessing that's the objective of the question, is in these things. One is, of course, the sort of bigger aspiration of what you want to do. But whatever that you've chosen, just be adamantly at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going back, Pushkar, repeating my same words. But there is just no price that, I mean, you can't put a price tag on consistency and obsession for doing something. Maybe later in your session you'll talk about it. But in 1984, Satish Meremba used to talk about it in the bank. There was this 1983 actually. There's this movie called Flashdance which came out. A wonderful, very simple country bumpkin girl who had the passion to become a dancer, win the national competition. And she comes from modest or no resources, but she goes on to win the competition by just obsession and passion. And the song there is etched in my head and never left my head. Is take your passion and make it happen, right? That line is my sort of goal, my master statement, if you will, and it's held me in good stead for 40 years now, and that's been my take your passion, make it happen. There are hundreds of versions of such movies that have come since, but I think that's the sort of epicenter of my thinking.
I will certainly go look up that movie and that
Oh
song
yeah, you will.
after
I
we.
mean, I have never heard anybody after my session tell me saying I didn't like that or didn't like the movie. You will end up watching the movie too.
Okay.
But whether you watch it or not, but, you can't miss the song. I mean, it's got a beat to it. You can't. However old we are, you'll end up tapping your feet and maybe dancing too.
So I have a very, I hope it's an interesting question, but is it important to have a role model? Because, and why I ask that is because the generations that are coming out of colleges now and, into the workforce, they seem to be much more confident and surer of themselves than probably we were at that stage. And possibly they don't feel the requirements to have a role model or a mentor or a guide for themselves. So, how important do you think is to have one?
Three different things here. I'll break them. I also don't subscribe to a role model theory. I don't have any. I never had. But there are people and situations and constructs that you aspire to be. Right? I told you an uncle of mine who was doing well. He was not a role model, but certainly somebody you would like to have characteristics of. Or later in the years when I became more a Dravid kind of person, you pick characteristics and you certainly I appreciate it and watch or track those people, but doesn't have to be. I'm not and I can't model myself. Like they said, no, everybody else is taken. You're the only one left.
Okay.
So don't try to be somebody else. But whatever attributes that you feel most comfortable with, you're drawing up from somebody, internalize them. Right? So I have never believed in a role model, but yeah, you pick so many things from so many people, not just people. You pick from occasions, events, situations, life experiences. I'm sure all of us do that willingly or otherwise. A coach and a mentor are very different. I think you mentioned younger generation. I would think all of us, but certainly younger generation attention spans are lower.
Yeah.
They don't want to listen to many sessions and many advices. First of all, if somebody comes and says, I'm going to advise you, bad way to start. Because the internal blocker kicks in and says, who the hell are you to advise me? So, my view, it has to be somebody felt and not expressed. Satish or you or I, or whenever we sit with somebody, we are picking up experiences. Right? If you told me I'm going to sit and coach you, invariably saying, Salah, this day's got an agenda. I'm already my blocker is up. Right? So, but if it's a nice, easy chat, you're picking up. Even if people you like or don't like, you're picking up. So I would think coach, mentor, badges are not relevant. Experiences that they share are hugely relevant.
Very well said.
How do we go about doing that and how nuanced it is, how non-invasive or interfering it is the style of the person who's delivering and to some extent the style of the person receiving it too. So younger, older, I would argue, is not so much of an issue. Yeah, younger, maybe your patience is less, your attention span is less. That's what I've seen recently. Very many younger people actually signing up to these things. It's not like it's not like they're indifferent to it, but I think they are more receptive to the style that suits them as opposed to a pedantic, I know it all kind of can. So I would believe what we are all seeking to learn from is somebody else's experience. I'm assuming if somebody is going to listen to our chat today, they are not so much as looking at who is saying what, that may fade. But if there's a nuance they picked up, then they try to internalize that. right? So that's what I would say is my view on this whole journey.
No, I think it's very well articulated. So I haven't heard it so well articulated before. So thank you.
Wow. Shyam, do you have any stories of extraordinary leadership that you've witnessed in person from somebody in your corporate career or outside of corporate?
Yeah, I think Satish, see, all of us, see, sometimes what happens, we trivialize a larger story with an example, which may be very transactional. But, they're all experience.
Mm-hmm.
Very early in their life, when I used to see leaders who were then celebrated or considered good leaders, when they used to personalize and do birthday gifts to somebody or send them something unique and different, it seemed like, wow, it's a great act. And then you realize that it's already templated the whole world. Every leader is doing it, right?
Right.
So the danger in templates is that it becomes checkbox.
Mm.
So the lesson in leadership for me is genuine personalization. When the other man believes that this is not my secretary on the birthday will ensure I get a bouquet, fine, I'll get it, right?
Mm.
But when Satish or Pushkar or X or Y say, get something that's different, unique, and personalized, then there's a connect that builds. And leadership is all about that personalization and connect and faith. If you have the time, go and see a short clip on Lollipop Moment, which you may have seen in any of my speeches. It brilliantly articulates the lollipop moment. So I often ask leaders about, have you created lollipop moments? And I'm not going to elaborate the story. You go and look at it on YouTube or wherever, you'll figure it out. But the message is when you least expect and when you don't think it's coming your way, by a very nuanced and genuine way, it lands on your table or in your ears or in your phone or in some capacity. It brings a unique connect and a smile on your face. So I think leadership is creating many such moments consistently without huge agenda for the sender and a win for the receiver. If you, as Satish, sense that in doing this, the bugger is gaining, it's a commercial transaction. Nothing wrong. Absolutely fine. Right? We are all doing this. But if you as a receiver says, wow, this is unique, I never expected it, and in doing this, the other guy actually gained, I'm just getting a smile. That I think, you did one very well. You may not realize. When I walked into your office, you gave me 3 books. You didn't have to. You didn't have to.
Thanks for remembering that. I do appreciate, Shyam.
Yeah, so those are what comes from Dil Se. So I think many such instances done over extended periods of time makes people different or otherwise.
I think what stands out for me in this conversation, Shyam, is that transactional leadership, if I can call it that, because I think it becomes more of an expectation on the receiver's side, and then that thrill or that wow factor is lost, as you rightly said. And probably at times it's better not to do anything than to do it just because it's supposed to be done. I
In
think
fact, not doing it is even better.
Correct.
Because there is a surprise again on that side. On the other side, I was expecting something, didn't come. It's also curiosity. And you fill that hole differently. Right? On my birthday, my boss will send me bouquet. Is an expectation.
Yeah.
Not get, but at the end of the night when the boss calls you,
Correct.
even better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So there are in many ways. That's why I don't want to fall into any templated checkbox kind of model. And again, every leader has to operate in all spectrums. You have to be very transactional, and on the other end of the spectrum, you have to be hugely relational or emotional, personalized. So I don't think there's one model, but I think you can play on the spectrum.
True.
Yeah, talking about leadership.
You guys are wondering what is this bullshit this guy is giving.
No, not at all. And no, Shyam, and trust me, I think I've had a 26 career mostly with banks also. And I think I resonate a lot with everything that you're saying because, I mean, we can get into that into later conversations. But sorry, Satish, back to you.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners also will find it very, very interesting, Shyam.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Feedback, do tell me. I'll see if that helps.
Yeah, sure. Talking about leadership, I strongly believe that leadership is all about continuously selling your vision to your team and inspiring them to take action. So, how do you make people believe what you believe? What is that one thing that you did differently?
I think, see, I did mention earlier in our chat, is both you have to see a big picture which you believe in, and you should have a conviction, and you need to stay the course. Again, I'm going back to the boring subject of staying the
Right.
course, right? Um, if Shyam Srinivasan comes into a bank and says, you know what, we're going to build something special, this is the promised land, we're going to do this, but his behavior is inconsistent with that aspiration,
Mm,
already people have checked out, right?
right.
But if they see you as a leader believing in your vision, in your conviction, and they see your behavior consistent with that, at least the more non-skeptical ones are beginning to sign on and say, hey, there's something in it. And everything is about evangelizing. Right? Sri
Mm,
Ravi Shankar or Jaggi Vasudev or X or Y or Z converted one, who converted four, who converted eight, who converted 16, who converted, geometrically. So I think evangelizing your vision through early followers who become believers and then a few others follow is a model that all leaders who believe in it have to hold on to. Second, length of you can't say I'm this and then check out in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, then you lost the plot. And the third is, if you believe it, try to cut layers in your communication and keep that communication chain open, transparent, consistently.
mm,
And I think today's technology allows you those things, right? I've had the good fortune of working in a bank which had great investment in technology. I use that platform without fail for 8 years. No employee in the bank missed out on a communication from me. Every employee saw a post from me. Good, bad, ugly is irrelevant, but message went out every employee on a Sunday morning before they woke up and had their tea or newspaper. And there was something for them to chew on, right? And the message was try to, then it's not the message, it's the manner of the message, the mood, the medium, the consistency, the fun, the laughter, this situation, the use of modern day, events to tell the story.
mm.
So I think in my journey, since you're talking about it, it's been conviction or belief that I thought we could build something special, get more people to believe in that, and then tell the story boringly, repeatedly on every occasion till they say, "Salah, okay, got it. Get off my head. I'm with you." So that's
Mm.
what I would say, Satish.
I think again, I love the way that you said that you're going to be consistent about your message of being consistent. So a question arises for me here. So, and I think this is more me asking you advice on behalf probably a lot of other people, is that as a leader, when you're trying to get your believers into followers, that cycle that you spoke about, what do you do when you fail?
Oh, there will be hundreds of occasions, right? So first, we should get in our head very clear. We're not playing a popularity contest.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
you're not going to get 100%, right?
Right.
If you have more people on your side than less, you're already in the game.
Hmm.
Wow.
And if you have less than more, you better check out, right? Or correct your course. Because generally people are not stupid.
Hmm.
And nobody falls for the bullshit for long. So I think the world has an automatic sensor capability. If you continuously give crap and think it's going to be bought,
Hmm.
not real. In a normal working environment, yeah, there could be very powerful people in with different streams who may buy support, but you know that it's not lasting. I'm talking of an organic, normal, middle class, growing leader wanting to make an impact, right? That's the universe I'm operating in. There will be people with blessed resources and privileges, which may be few and can be very different. So I'm not even in that space. My mantra has been: if you come from modest and aspiring backgrounds with a lot of passion and wanting to make a difference, then stay the course, be at it, Tell the story, tell it repeatedly, tell it multiple ways, tell them that they least expect to hear the story on their bedside, in their room, on the wall, in the WhatsApp, in the chat, in the social media platform, wherever they care to hear, read, listen, but be consistent with your message and your practice. If you are telling a story differently from how they see you live and walk and talk, in minutes it'll explode. Then you are in a shameful situation. When shameful, matlab your game is over. So I think in these things, that's what I would sort of reiterate a million times over.
Sure.
And will you lose out on a few? Absolutely yes. But interestingly, platforms today give you online feedback, and if you're fairly candid with yourself, you can course correct.
Okay.
Not drop your core theme, but the manner in which you're delivering your core theme, you can correct.
Correct.
In fact, that creates greater followership because the naysayer says, "Salah, this guy is listening to me. There's something in this fellow." So, short point or long point to your question is, will you have people saying no and falling off? Yes. If you have less people falling off, you've won the game. If you have more people falling off, either you check out or you change your course.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Plenty of learnings for me already, Shyam. This is just amazing. Let's just shift gears a little bit here. We talk about sport as a metaphor for life and business and everywhere. So, according to you, cutting across generations, which is the best sporting moment in the last 40, 50 years?
See, the pre-widely telecasted era was clearly for us the 83 June World Cup. That was a moment, but I think it was less telecast and more in the radio, and therefore not many people can easily sign on to it, right? Then comes obviously the 2007 and 2011 World Cup, when in particular 2011, when that famous Dhoni shot happened, and I happened to be in the pavilion. I happened to be the ball landed around the place I was sitting.
Wow.
So it was even more special for me. But I think the message around sporting moments, and those sort of stick to your head. And I do recall, I don't know if you were there in the bank, Satish, the morning after, this was 2nd April 2011, and third morning I put out a 10-point learning from that game. Right? I mean, now it looks stupid. I mean, it looks like everybody would say it, but that's what I thought, and I put out my learnings on the following morning. What I thought was big. But set that apart, the point around sporting moments being lessons or sort of takeaways in life, I generally like to see when odds are against you, chips are against you, you fought and you came back and won the game, right? Djokovic, 2 matches, not the one he walked away, the one he beat Karas, 1 set down, broken leg. Now, many say he fainted, but I don't know. We'll take it as faith. Coming back and winning that game, and going into the semis was something else. Or there are hundreds of examples, but character is shown when you have really back against the wall. Odds are stuck against you, and you say, "No, I'm sticking it out and coming out and winning." That builds, that's a high that is unmatched.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of lessons and learnings from.
I think 1983 was one of the times when a lot of people bought TV sets for the first time, if I remember. I think in my home also we bought our first TV set for that match.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about these monumental dates, right, and especially with cricket, right, they were ones that we did something heroic in terms of the World Cup. Now, I'm not much of a sports fan, but I wonder that in corporates, or my experience has been that we also tend to focus when we're talking to people, or in trainings, or when leaders are talking to us, they also tend to focus on the process. And often a message is that don't worry about the outcome, you continue to focus on the process. And when it comes to moments that we recall, it's always the wins. So how does one keep that motivation up to continue focusing on the process when everybody just remembers the wins?
Very nowadays you see it very many times. The man of the match of every game. They've all been tailored and scripted to give this as a line. I only focus on the process and results will come.
Hmm.
That's a scripted line, you can tell. Now, half these fellows don't speak English, but this
Yeah,
line
yeah,
alone, they obviously they've got good teaching. But more deeper point to make is how do you stand up to failures, right?
correct.
Uh, I think may sound a little pompous, but I'll give you my two bits on it and allow me the luxury of saying that. Many years ago, I coined my own framework, so to say, which is belief leads to behavior, behavior sets the process, process leads to outcome, and the outcome is matching with your belief. Then you redo your process, do your process consistently. The outcome is different, either change your belief or change your behavior. So that loop has to be constantly revisited. Because if you've done, like they say, doing the same things all over again and expecting a different result is the operating definition of insanity. Right? So if you've done it one way all the time and you expect a different outcome, then maybe, kind of erroneous. So if your processes are wrong,
Hmm.
chances are the design is wrong and chances are that the outcomes are not matching your expectation. So constantly revisit this loop and figure out where the glitch is. Your process is damn right, but the design of the process is wrong, then you're producing a wrong outcome.
Got it.
So, in some sense, this is a constant loop we have to revisit. So, I said, allow me the luxury of saying this because it sounds a little pompous. But I have invested in this for many years, developed this as my model. And it's not just my model, I'm sure many management gurus teach and talk about this. But I have seen this work.
Hmm.
You constantly, continuously do the same stuff and expect a different outcome. Kind of doesn't match up.
Okay. No, I think that's some great advice. So,
Yeah, people listening have to take notes here. Some extraordinary lessons from an extraordinary man. Thank you, Shyam. We've already done close to 40 minutes in this call, Shyam. Um, just a couple more questions, and we have one quick fire round where you have to answer in one sentence or one word. To keep the things interesting, there are some interesting questions coming up as well. So before we get to the quick fire round, let me ask you: is there any interesting side of Sham that no one knows about?
I've been around the block too long for told my story, told my story repeatedly that people will be surprised if I add a new twist to the tale. But
Mm.
I'm generally quite a boring guy. I mean, I have no, can't hide that. I, other than my crazy love for sport and I'm deeply religious and as in temples and stuff like that. So both the sides are known. What you may not know is I make very good filter coffee. So if you ever come here, I'll give
Wow.
you filter coffee. Uh, I think other than that, I don't know. There's an interesting side, but I read a fair bit. I am a reasonably homegrown character. But that said, all of us are in some shape from that. So I don't. I mean, I'm not fancying anything. Actually, there's no fancy characteristic of mine which is not known. My story has been told many times over. But yeah, the filter coffee and I manage my own shoots. I dry clean my own shoots if it helps you.
Wow.
I do things those are things that I've learned over the years to just as I wash clean. I do the home chores. If those are interesting for you, yeah.
Sure.
Yesterday, after 25 years, I started driving.
Wow.
My license had expired. I hadn't gotten a license for a long period of time. I
Mhm.
just got myself a new license and I started driving after long periods of time. And I don't know if I'm a danger on the road, but yeah, I'm just started.
so I'm going to ask you a very, very serious question, and if you need a moment to think about it, please do. The situation is that I'm a young person coming to you for a very, very specific advice. And the question I ask you is that would you recommend that I try out the new coffee, the new filter coffee Starbucks has introduced, or are you going to give me one of your made filter coffee cups, what would you answer?
I don't have to think. As I take mine, you can't get better.
And why?
I think that goes back to my theory of conviction and belief and faith.
Okay,
Right? If I don't sell my own wares, I've lost the plot.
brilliant. And I think there's a very, very larger meaning to what you just said. I know it's sort of just a simple sentence, but
No, I say this, Pushkar, and genuinely. If somebody walked up to me in my years in the bank and said, I want to leave the bank, I will tell him, good reason why you should stay is I'm staying there because I believe in it. Right? So if I was myself searching outside and I was giving him advice differently, my eyes would show me. Right? So I have no qualms about batting for things that I have deep conviction for. This morning, somebody called me and asked me, where should I put my cousin who's returning from the US? He was got some dollars, where to invest in it. I did mention the bank that would have given the best rates for this may not be have been the one that I left, but it's better to give them that proposition. But if you had told me who's the best service, I would have said bank that I left. Right? So I think the conviction is what you own and what you believe.
so next time, anytime when Satish invites me over to Chennai, I'm going to make a stop at your place for some coffee.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Let's get to the quick fire round now.
I'm going on mute because I just want to pay complete attention to this very interesting part.
Sure. Yeah.
I should also go on mute. Then Satish will be talking.
All right, gentlemen. Okay, Shyam, here we go. First one. What is the one thing that people value and you don't?
People value and I don't.
Yes.
That would sound very pompous if I say I value ethics and others don't or something, right? So that I'll escape. Maybe a very sophisticated car, very plush car. Maybe because I've seen that before and I don't quite care for it right now. So yeah, Lamborghini, right? Yeah. So it doesn't mean anything to me other than that it looks kind of crude.
Sure. Okay. One conversation that turned your life around.
One conversation that turned my life around. Yeah.
Right.
The current MD of Kotak Mahindra, a very dear friend of mine from my early days in Citibank. When I was working in the UAE, he was my boss. And he came and told me, Shyam, I'm shifting you out of sales. I'm putting you in ops and technology and service. And I freaked my mind out. I said, what the hell? I'm a rock star sales guy. How the hell can you take me out? You're truncating my career. And he mentioned very clearly to me, saying that, my friend, you will thank me many years later because you will have an experience differently from anybody else of your peers because you're seeing the bank through all lenses. So I think that's a conversation that has done me well, whether he meant it or otherwise. I got picked for a business head job way many years before anybody else in my peer set because I had done sales, marketing, credit, ops, technology, service, and a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so that's the line.
Oh, thank you. What is the one superpower that you want to have?
Good question. Many tell me, I genuinely think I'm reasonably switched on optimistically most often. I don't want that to go away till my last, till whenever I'm around. I want to keep that energy going.
Sure. Thank you. Now you have to pick one from the options that I'm giving. Elon Musk or Steve Jobs?
I think Steve Jobs. I'm glad that I just know them through books. I don't know them either. But I think Steve Jobs, because long after he's gone, he is being discussed and celebrated, and what he's created is lasting. So yeah, Steve Jobs.
Wow. Thank you. Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Martin Luther King.
I'm going to be unpopular and say none of them. Because for the same reasons I told you, I don't particularly deify anybody, individual or anybody. But if you ask me, it's nice to say Gandhi. but I think I'll say Luther King,
Hmm.
not because of anything else, for that fantastic speech,
Yeah.
which recoiled, resonated, passion, and consistency, and all the things that I value most.
For this one, I'm not giving an option of Rahul Dravid. You have to pick one among Tendulkar, Ponting, Saurav Ganguly.
Tendulkar, Ponting, Saurav Ganguly.
Yep.
Oh, Tendulkar.
All right. Great. Then coming to tennis that I'm very passionate about, Federer, Djokovic, Nadal.
Federer by margin.
Why?
Package. Grace, elegance, consistency, effortless. Looks effortless, but a lot of effort.
Yes. Yeah. After retirement, he, went on to speak something about him being looking effortless on the field, but a lot of work that went behind it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Best book you've ever read.
Many, but you may have heard my reference to good to great very often.
Mhm.
Though it's some sense it's no longer some of the examples offered then don't make sense. But I think good to great has great significance because it's a journey, that
Sure.
pursuit of greatness, and particularly for people who are good to pursue greatness and not settle for good. Good is the enemy of great.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Shyam. Shyam, we have almost come to the end of our wonderful conversation. Is there any particular thing that you feel like we didn't ask you, and your last words on anything that we didn't ask?
Well, these are conversations which can keep going on forever. But I think the underlying message that I often tell, assuming there's a lot of younger colleagues listening to it,
Right.
is what I've started and said many times over in my conversation is just uh, obsess about something. Don't give up. Just be at it like a crazy guy. Right? Passion is everything. And take your passion, make it happen. Don't give up. Be at it. I don't think I can say it enough number of times because that is the driving mool mantra for anybody to be anything. You could take any spectrum of life, work, you will sport, you will find these as. And the second, which I'm wading into a territory which I may get, thankfully, I'm no longer a brand, so nobody quite cares. This number of hours work is bullshit. Right? Whether it's 90, 70, and all, I am not.
Right.
I
90,
have never
70, monumental hours numbers right
right?
now.
But I think this work-life balance and all, I think this fabrication of some modern day, you don't expect the lifestyle of your grandson with the salary of your grandfather. You choose which you want.
Interesting.
So yeah, if there's a headline, you can use that. I'm not a great fan of one of those lines, but just pour yourself into whatever you do
Absolutely.
and integrate work and life.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And our podcast is titled Changepreneurs, and we wish to drive positive change in the world through these conversations. What is that one change that you wish to see in the world?
Uh, Less negativity, less skepticism, and greater hope and faith in the other.
Wow, fantastic. Look, Shyam, it has been an incredible honor and privilege to host you on this show. Thank you very much. We really cannot thank you enough. Thank you, Pushkar, for co-hosting as well. I sincerely appreciate from the bottom of my heart for the time that you spent here. I'm sure the listeners will benefit, will take notes, and they will take the messages in the right spirit, and they will implement one little thing in their life and improve the quality of their lives. Thank you so much.
No, I'm glad if it was any help, any use, wonderful, and I hope it serves the purpose. And Satish, compliments. You kept at it. Even after I'm done and dusted, you didn't give up. So if it's useful, I'll be very happy.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Shyam.
And
And yeah, Pushkar, last
no,
words.
I'm just saying, I'm just wanted to thank Sham for his time today. And I think one of the key takeaways that we, as host and co-host of this podcast, we will be consistent. We will keep driving this message throughout. So And I think coming from a very long corporate life, I totally enjoyed this conversation with you. A very frank and open conversation, which was highly appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you
Well,
so
good,
much.
gents, and all the best to you guys.